So I'm standing on the driving range a few weeks ago, and I'm learning to play golf. I know it's late in life, very humbling, the whole thing. And I have a friend who actually knows what he is doing, and he offers to videotape my swing, slow motion, a couple different angles, the way the real coaches do it. And I say, sure, because in my head, my swing feels pretty good. It feels smooth. I'd worked on it a lot with a coach. Feels like I'm doing more or less what I see other people do on television. However, I know in the back of my head that that ball never goes where I want it to go 100% of the time. So he records the video and he plays it back for me. And I want to tell you that watching yourself in slow motion is just a special kind of education. Because the swing I felt and the swing on that screen were two very different events. My elbow was doing something I did not authorize. My hips were a half second early. There was this flinch at the top that I had no idea was happening and had been happening apparently for my entire short golf career. I felt one thing. The camera saw something completely different. And then my friend does something that I want you to notice. This is the crux of the whole podcast. He looks at me and he asks permission. He says, "Can I give you some real feedback on this? Are you open to advice?" And I did not hedge. I did not get defensive. I said, "Yes, please. Please tell me everything because I want to get better and I cannot fix what I cannot feel." So I've been sitting with that moment ever since because here is the thing. On the driving range with a golf club, I was wide open. Tell me everything. But I've spent 25 years in rooms where the stakes were 100 times higher than my golf game, and I'm not sure that I made it that easy for anyone to hand me the truth about how I was actually showing up. I'm Dale Dixon, and this is the Presence Lab, the show where we work on presence under pressure from the inside out. Body first, message second, always in that order. Today, we are talking about the leadership problem nobody puts on a performance review because most people are just too uncomfortable to say it out loud. It is the gap between the leader that we feel like we are being and the leader other people are actually experiencing. Specifically, it's the small nonverbal stuff. It's the sigh, the eye roll. It's that thing that our face does when we're only half listening. It's the tells we cannot see that everyone else can, that are quietly costing us trust. We don't even know we are losing that trust. So here's the roadmap. First, we're going to kill the lazy advice, the advice that says, oh, just become more self-aware. Because the research says that advice is almost useless, and I'm going to show you why. Then we're going to look at where these tells actually show up and what is really driving them, which is not what most people think. Then I'm going to hand you 3 tools and when to use them, the exact move, and a line you can actually say out loud. And one of them comes straight out of my book, Sweating Bullets. And if you want all of this on paper, I built you something. It's called The Mirror, and it is a 2-page field guide with a nonverbal self-audit, a feedback script you can borrow word for word, and a 7-day tracker. It lives at daledixon.me/mirror. That is daledixon.me/mirror. I'm going to say it again at the end, so stay with me. My goal in the next few minutes is to earn a 5-star review from you in your favorite podcast app. I would be most grateful. So let's start with the advice everybody gives and nobody can use. Just be more self-aware. It sounds wise. It is basically worthless. And there is a body of research that explains why. An organizational psychologist named Tasha Eurich spent about 4 years studying this with nearly 5,000 people. And she found a number I want you to hear. 95% of us believe we are self-aware. The actual figure, the people who really are, is somewhere between 10 and 15%. That's a massive delta. Sit with that gap for a second. On a good day, roughly 8 out of 10 people are walking around mistaken about themselves and confident about it. So when someone tells you just be more self-aware, they're asking you to use the one instrument that is already broken. You cannot introspect your way out of a blind spot because the entire definition of a blind spot is that you're already looking and you still cannot see it. And here is the part that should stop every senior leader cold. Urick found that it gets worse the higher you climb. So as people become more experienced and more powerful, their self-awareness became less accurate, not more. Partly because the higher we go, the harder it becomes to get anyone to tell us the truth. I call it the mushroom syndrome. You get the nice corner office where people just keep you in the dark and feed you a lot of BS. The feedback quietly dries up, which means the people with the most influence in the room are often the least accurate about how they are landing in it. That is not a character flaw. That is a structural trap. And we are going to talk about how to climb out of that trap. So we're going to get specific because this lives in the small moments. This is not about the big speeches, the big presentations. It's the audible sigh in a budget meeting, the breath you didn't even know you let out, that the three people across the table just read as contempt. It's an eye roll that we swear we did not do, the one that fired off while we were thinking about a completely different problem. It is our glance at our phone the second someone junior starts talking. I know that one. It's the jaw that sets, the eyebrow that lifts a little bit, the little quarter turn of your body toward the door while a person is still mid-sentence, the flat, clipped okay that lands like a slammed cabinet. It's the micro head shake you do while someone is still explaining their ideas, or maybe it's the arms that fold the moment we disagree. Any one of these on its own is really nothing. It's a flicker. But when we string them together over weeks in a person with authority, they add up to a story other people are telling about us. And the story is not kind. The story is, this person is dismissive. This person does not respect us. This person has already decided. And here's what makes it so painful. We almost never mean any of it. The leaders I work with on this are not contemptuous people. They are usually the exact opposite. They care intensely, which is exactly why this stings when they finally see it, because the impact is so far away from the intent. They meant to be present. They came across as checked out. They meant to be thinking hard. They came across as shutting it down. So what is actually going on? And this is where the Presence Lab earns its keep, because the answer is not in our character, it is in our nervous system. These tells are not flaws, they are leaks. They are our internal state escaping through our body without permission. Usually when we are under some low-grade stress that we have stopped even noticing. So let me take the two that started this whole conversation for me, the sigh and the eye roll, because the science is genuinely beautiful and it changes how we treat both. Take the sigh first. A lot of people sigh by holding the breath and then letting out one big exhale, and it reads to everyone nearby as, oh, here we go again. But here's the truth. A sigh is not an attitude. A sigh is a reflex. Researchers at Stanford traced it to a tiny cluster of cells in the brainstem, and the way one of the lead scientists put it has stuck with me. A sigh, he said, is a deep breath, but not a voluntary one. Your body does it on its own, roughly every few minutes, to reinflate the parts of our lungs that collapse a little when we are tense and breathing shallow. So that big exhale your colleagues are taking personally is actually your body trying to regulate itself. It's a reset valve. The cruel joke is that the most personal looking tell in the room is often the least personal thing our body does all day. Now, the eye roll. Where does that come from? Well, in my experience, and in the experience of a lot of leaders that I've worked with, the eye roll is almost never aimed at the person in front of you. It's aimed inward. I remember a call that I did not return. I catch myself forgetting an agenda item. There's a little critic living in the back of my head, and the eye roll is that critic leaking out through my face. You're rolling your eyes at yourself, but not everyone else can see the inside of your head. They just see the eyes go up, and they assume the contempt is pointed at them. So put those together, and we have the whole mechanism. Our state is doing something honest and private, and our body is broadcasting it as something hostile and public. And there's one more layer, the one that matters most for a leader. State is contagious. We co-regulate off each other constantly. So a dysregulated leader does not just leak. A dysregulated leader sets the temperature for the entire room. Our tight jaw becomes their tight shoulders. Our held breath becomes the held breath of everyone reporting to us. We are not just being misread, we are setting the weather. Which brings me back to the driving range. Here is the hard fact at the center of all of this. We cannot watch our own swing. We physically cannot. We can feel it, and we just established that what we feel and what is actually happening are two very different events. The only way I ever saw the flinch at the top of my golf swing was that camera, an outside angle, a truer mirror than the one in my own head. And in our nonverbals, we're actually the same way. Our face is making swings we never authorized, and we will never see a single one of them from the inside. We can stand in front of an actual mirror and we will not catch them because the second we look, we start posing. We make the face we want to make. The mirror in our bathroom shows us the leader we intend to be. The only mirror that shows us the leader we actually are is other people, their eyes, their honest report. The camera we cannot hold ourselves. So we cannot fix the swing we cannot see. So the entire game becomes this one question. How do we get our hands on the footage? 3 tools. When to use it, the move, and a line we can say. Here it goes. Tool number 1, roll the tape. Use this when you suspect you have a tell, but you cannot pin it down. Here's the move, and the research backs every piece of it. Do not ask someone, how am I doing? Because that question is just too big and people will dodge it because they want to be kind. Instead, I want you to pick a trusted person and ask them to watch one specific behavior across the next 3 meetings. One thing. So Urich's research is clear that the magic is in being specific and in asking what, not why. So the line sounds like this. Hey, will you watch my face on Thursday when someone pushes back on my idea and tell me exactly what it does? That's it. You just handed someone a camera and pointed it at the one swing you cannot see. Here's tool number 2. Pick your loving critics. Use this one as a standing practice, not a one-off. Urich has a phrase I love for the people you want here. Loving critics. These are the rare few who genuinely want you to win and will still tell you the hard truth. Not the cheerleaders who only soften it, not the cynics who enjoy the wound, the ones in the narrow middle. The move is to name 3 to 5 of them across different levels and to actively make it safe for them to be honest with you. And here's the trap. Kim Scott named it perfectly in her book, Radical Candor. Good guidance lives where 2 things meet. You care about the person, and you are still willing to challenge them directly. When you care, but you will not challenge, when you go soft to spare someone's feelings, Scott calls that ruinous empathy. And she found it is the single most common way good people fail each other. So flip that around and let's look at ourselves. When the people who care about us go soft on us, we get nothing, which means the whole move for a leader, is that we have to ask for the feedback before we ever give any. We go first. We model the openness that we are hoping to get back. Scott even has a go-to question, and I want you to steal it word for word. What could I do or stop doing that would make it easier to work with me? And then, the hard part, we close our mouth and we count to 6 and we actually listen. And it runs deeper than being nice, which is where Jim Collins comes in, because he studied what separates merely good companies from genuinely great ones, and he found that the great ones built what he called a climate where the truth is heard. But he also issued a warning that every senior leader needs to hear. He said that a strong personality, the very thing that often gets us promoted, can become a liability because people start to filter the brutal facts from us. They manage around us instead of leveling with us. Put Collins and Urich together, and we get the single most important sentence in this episode. The higher we rise, the quieter our critics get, right when we need them loudest. So we have to engineer the truth back into the room on purpose. The line for this one is simple and a little vulnerable, which is the point. I need you to be the person who tells me the thing nobody else will. Will you do that for me? Oh, that's hard. Tool number 3, mind the exhale. And this is the one from Sweating Bullets because this is pure state first. Use this right before you walk into anything that matters. Here's the logic. We said the sigh is our body trying to regulate itself on autopilot. So the move is to stop leaving it on autopilot. Take the reset valve off automatic and pull it on purpose before we enter the room so that our body does not fire the loud, involuntary version in the middle of someone's sentence. There's a simple version that a Stanford study found can settle us in just a few minutes. 2 inhales through the nose. The second is a short top-up. So it's going to sound like this. And I think about a baby, an upset baby in this case. You will hear the baby do this. They'll take that first inhale and then a quick inhale to top it off. And then one long, slow exhale through the mouth. And it's longer than feels natural. A couple of those before the door, and we have already discharged the tension that would have leaked out as a sigh inside. It calms us down. It's going to slow the heartbeat. It does a great job for us before we walk into a high-stakes situation. And for the eye roll, the move is to name the loop. When we feel that inner critic start up about the call we forgot, we catch it. And we let it be a private thought instead of a public broadcast. And this is the whole Sweating Bullets idea in one breath. State first, message second. Because we cannot lead a room our own body is bracing against. Anchor ourselves first, and the tells have nothing to leak. So before we land this, I owe you some honesty about my own work here because I'm not standing on a finished version of any of it, not close. I have hired a coach to run a full 360 evaluation on me, the honest read of my colleagues and my direct reports in business and in my personal life. I have sat down with my wife and my kids and the people I work with, and I have given every one of them express permission. Tell me the hard things. Tell me what I do not want to hear. And do you know what I found? Even after all of that, people still hesitate. That is ruinous empathy, alive in my own house, my own office. Our cultures, all of them, are quietly resistant to the hard conversation. So I'm still pulling on it, and I'm still working every week to build the kind of trust where the people around me believe it is genuinely safe to hold up the mirror. I have a long way to go, and I suspect I always will. And that word mirror is not mine. It comes from my friend and mentor, Ron Price, who writes in his book, The Complete Leader, that sometimes you have to let other people be your mirror because they see you more clearly than you see yourself. Ron also taught me what to do when the mirror shows me something I would rather not see. So the reflex is to blame, to defend, to deny, to make an excuse. The discipline is to do the opposite. Say thank you. Own it. Because here is the line that of Ron's that I cannot get away from. I am not judged on my intent. I am judged on my impact, which is the whole reason a sigh I never meant can still cost me the room. So here's where we land. Our tells are not who we are. They are leaks. They're state escaping through the body, almost always when we meant something completely different from what came across. The sigh is our lungs resetting. The eye roll is our own inner critic getting out. None of it is the contempt people are reading into it. Here's the twist that should keep all of us honest. The more authority we gain, the more invisible these leaks become to us, because the feedback that would have shown them dries up exactly as the stakes go up. So greatness, real presence under pressure, was never about having no tells. Nobody's that clean. It's about keeping a standing invitation open. It's about being that leader who, like a guy on a driving range, can look at the footage of their own worst habit and say, yes, please show me. I want to get better. The leaders who stay great are not the ones with the smoothest swing. They are the ones who never stop asking to see the tape. Which brings me all the way back to my friend on the range, holding up his phone, asking if he could tell me the truth about my swing. I have realized that the easy yes I gave him is the entire skill. That yes, said by a leader about their own face, about the sigh, the eye roll, the quarter turn toward the door, the yes is the whole thing. It is the hardest yes in leadership because the camera does not flatter us. And because the higher we have climbed, the longer it has been since anyone dared to point it out. So I still cannot see my own golf swing, never will. But I have a friend with a phone, and I have learned to say, tell me everything. And I'm trying genuinely to be that open about the swings I make in rooms that matter a lot more than a Tuesday afternoon on the driving range. So here's what I would love for you to do. First, go get the mirror. It is the field guide for everything that we have covered today. The nonverbal self-audit so that we can start spotting our own tells. It's the exact loving critic script so we do not have to find the words ourselves. It's the mind the exhale drill and a 7-day tracker. It's all free. It's at daledixon.me/mirror. One more time, daledixon.me/mirror. And second, here's the one that actually matters. Think of a specific leader in your life right now. Someone good, someone who genuinely cares, someone who has a tell they cannot see that is quietly costing them and that nobody has had the nerve to mention. You know who they are. Send them this episode and then do the brave, generous thing. Offer to be their loving critic. Offer to hold up the camera because the best gift you can give a leader you respect is the one angle they will never get on their own. I'm Dale Dixon, body first, message second. I'll see you next week.